am Taylor, and you are listening to the Surviving Maine podcast. And in this episode, it is actually the fourth one I recorded, and it is with the person voted out at Final Four, the robbed goddess herself. Well, there are many robbed goddesses of Surviving Maine 2019, but this one hurt. It is the badass of Surviving Maine, Jazzy. And of course, I have Liza's thoughts on Jazzy to start us off.
Jasmine, again, lasted much longer than I expected. I didn't think that I knew that she was a camper and a hiker, and like very outdoorsy as a person, and that she goes, kayaking and sleeps outside all the time. But I didn't necessarily expect that she would be so good strategically.
Mm-hmm.
And also that like she's very mentally tough in that she, we had the challenge where they vote like who's the most annoying, who do they want out the most, and she got a lot of those really hard questions pointed at her, but she handled it in the moment and then didn't let it affect her game further on.
Yeah.
That's something that I wouldn't have been able to do, is that I would have taken it to heart and been really upset by it. But she was, a champ about it. And and also too, put everything she had into her challenges and into camp life. So I think that helped her too.
And Tricky, of course, had some things to say about Jazzy as well.
Jazz was going to get the people on her side because she had a way of just bringing you in. Jazz has a way just to be real with you, which is something I really respect. If you can be 100% honest with me, I can respect you and will be loyal to you.
Yes, Tricky. Even doing a confessional with her, I was pulled in. I know what you're talking about, man. So here it is, my interview with Jazzy. So thank you for talking to me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. Nervous, but excited.
Oh, don't be nervous. We all want to hear what the wonderful Jasmine has to say.
Oh my God. I don't even know. I had a really hard time getting my head out of the game. When I left, it took 5 days. It took me getting friggin' hammered. I had to go, no, seriously. I had to go get drunk, and it pulled my head out of it. And finally the next day I was not looking for idols and worried about what people were saying. And yeah, so I don't know. I've been out of it for a little while now, but
You just couldn't trust people?
It wasn't even a trust thing. It was just this paranoia that had crept in toward day 3, maybe day 2.5. And I couldn't shake the paranoia. So yeah.
When you first arrived the first day, what were your impressions of the other people that you saw, the other players?
Well, I mean, when I instantly drove up, I was the last one there.
Oh.
So I was checking everybody out in line, and I was all right, I'm not supposed to look at them, but I'm going to. And there's my teammates. I couldn't see the red team, obviously. But my instant impression when I walked up and they were facing the woods was okay, maybe I can do this, because what I was most worried about going there was just that I was going to be up against 10 Justins, right? That's what I was worried about, that it was just going to be these really strong, really fit people. And most people were pretty fit, but it wasn't what I expected, which was good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, once we kind of got blindfolded and walked down the, dirt road blindfolded with logging trucks going by us, I could hear people kind of giggling. And then we got lost walking to, the main field. And it was kind of an opportunity to feel out people's personalities and all right, who's the outgoing people? And I instantly started playing. So it was who are the outgoing people? Who are the people that are standing to the side, who are not really kind of engaging? And I just started instantly profiling people.
And what were those profiles? Who were those people?
Oh gosh. Oh no.
as tactfully as you can.
As tactfully as I can. Like, so obviously I know Sarah.
Yes.
Her and I are good friends. We've known each other for a while. So we instantly made eye contact. And like prior to going into the game, it was like, are we going to tell people or not? And I was pro don't tell people.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know, maybe we should.
Oh no.
And instantly she looked at me when we had taken our blindfolds off and she was like, did the like cut across your neck, like, no, we're not telling people. And I was like, good.
Awesome.
So I had her, but I was kind of like not engaging with her. Like I didn't want to make it look like we knew each other. So I kind of kept her to the side. Instantly obviously Brandon has such an exuberant personality that I was like, yay, like I want to be his friend.
Yeah.
And I want to be in his alliance because I felt like, him and I would vibe. So it was like, yeah, Brandon, I want him on my side. Cameron, instantly kind of like showed like a quiet kind of leadership. He kind of has that presence about him. And it was like, okay, I like him. I feel like I could kind of work with him. Nick, I instantly knew I wanted him gone.
Oh.
No offense to him or his personality. It was just like part of my strategic play going in was get out the strongest guy first. Like it was the strongest guy. I wanted to go home first.
This is why you're my favorite.
Right. Because I knew that I was going to be a target physically. And it was like, how do I get people to realize that you don't want him in the game? It doesn't matter. And to me, it was like, I wanted to go in and find the number 2 guy to be in my alliance. And that to me was Cameron. And that's why I kind of silently had an alliance with him. Becca, I was like instantly like, wow, she's a badass. But her and I didn't really do a lot of strategic talking on day one. But I thought like, oh, she's cool. I really like her as a person and she's a badass. Tony, I instantly knew that no offense, Tony, when you listen to this, but I instantly knew that he would be somebody that you would want to take to the end. Somebody that he just seemed loyal from the beginning and he seemed like he really wasn't playing the game, very silent, very off to the side. Jess, instantly I loved her. Like I was like, oh, I love her. Like I wanted to be her friend. And that was the hardest part for me is I wanted to be friends with most people on our tribe, but I also needed to backstab them. So I played hard, but Jess I knew was like going to be a good challenge winner. But that was also kind of my strategy was get out the toughest girl as well. It was 2 toughest players physically. I wanted out first. That was my strategy. Who am I forgetting? Shoot, who am I forgetting? Oh, Patrick.
Yes.
Oh, Tricky. Tricky played a loose game. And I could tell that from the beginning because I could see him like scheming and he doesn't have the ability to have a poker face, I found. So I would see him kind of whispering with Nick in an obvious way. However, then he was kind of playing into this like, other kind of role with other people. And so I kind of knew like Tricky was tricky and not somebody you could actually trust. And I think that's everybody. And, then there was me and I didn't want to go into the game and be the leader, but I'm naturally kind of a leader in my life, with my friends, with my family, with my work. So it's hard for me to kind of keep back. And I didn't feel like people were talking. So it was like within 10 minutes, I was like, all right, alliance, and trying to scoop people around.
Who were the first people you approached for an alliance?
So I never really approached Sarah. I had told her from the beginning, like, we're just going to be aligned and don't worry about it. Yeah. And so it's funny because I never really had any behind the scenes conversations with her, which maybe was a bad move. But it was Nick. Honestly, like I was wanting to get into the alliance with him, knowing I'd want to vote him out because I figured he was probably going to target me. So it was Nick, Cameron, Brandon, Jess, and Tony and Sarah. I think that's everybody. Or not Tony. I don't even remember. There were 6. I know, it's been so long. There was 6. It was like the 6, like, yeah, me, Sarah, Jess, Cameron, Brandon, and Nick. That was the 6 I was proposing from the beginning.
Okay.
First, like, instant talk. What happened, and I think it was on day 1, honestly, was that I just kept seeing Nick going off with Cameron and Jess, and they were super close, right? They were super close, I felt like, and I felt like they were trying to do this, like, tough team alliance, like this strongest player alliance. Right. And so there was a moment where there was Becca and Tony and Tricky, and I think it was Brandon and Sarah, and they were all sitting by the camp, and the other ones were off away. And I was like, you know, really scheming, like, they're trying to do a top person alliance. You guys know we're on the bottom. We need to vote together. And so I was trying to get this, like, underdog alliance going, which didn't completely pan out because everything moved so freaking quickly. We just kind of kept, you know, I don't know. I kept switching my alliance around. It was whatever was best for me, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. So, I don't want to talk about the first day because there wasn't time to talk much strategy that first day other than what you've already told me, right? Like in between challenges, you had no reason. You weren't going to tribal. Did you feel like that was a good thing or a bad thing?
I didn't know that we weren't going to go to tribal that day, and I really had no idea what to expect with what we were doing. Like, it was like, oh, we're just going to do these challenges until dark. Like, I had no idea. So for me, like, I was trying to strategize, like, the whole time.
Do you think more so than anyone else it was you?
You know, they voted me most person that talked behind, you know, the person that talked behind people's back the most. And I would have voted for myself too. I mean, I honestly, I was like, and I was trying to make eye contact with the red team. Like, who can I, you know, like, who can I, like, I make eyes with to be like, let's align when we merge. But the red team was not having any contact with us.
Yeah.
They were so team red. Like, we played up being team pro blue, you know, blue till the end. But I feel like red was way tighter. It didn't work for them.
Do you want to talk about what happened at the slingshot with the other Jasmine?
Oh, geez. So during one of the reward challenges on day 1, it was Cameron and I doing the puzzle. It was like the little box puzzle with the pieces, untie the top of the box, and you put those little block pieces in. So I had seen red, they were doing it, and when they did it, this white piece of paper flew out and they had picked it up. And I was like, oh shit, look, there's a white piece of paper in our box. So Cameron was super focused on the game that when he pulled the top off the box, he didn't realize, and I was like, grab that. So I grabbed the freaking clue to the idol, and I was like, just shoved it down my shirt or whatever. And then when we were behind people, you know, when Liza was talking to us, I was reading it, and it was a clue to the idol. There was so little time to share in between that I never really got a chance to give Cameron the clue. I think that I had gone into the bathroom, read the clue, and was like, okay, I don't need it anymore. I can give it to him. Because it was like, you know, here's like a token of trust. Let's see if we can trust each other kind of thing. And so I'd given it to him. I don't think he had ever looked at it, because then we went immediately into the bag throwing competition, the one with the sandbags, like, on the grid. And as we were walking toward it, the red team were already on their mat, and we were walking toward there, and I knew that's what the clue said. It was under that mat. And instead of trying to do it during the game, I was like, forget, I'm just gonna grab it, but I'm gonna get behind everybody on blue. So everybody was walking, and I just kind of sauntered back, and then I picked it up, and red watched me, and I was so surprised. Like I've asked people after the game, like, why did you guys not call me out? Because I would have started, if I would have seen that, I would have been like, hey, she just did that. Or I would have told somebody on red, like I would have tried to get trust by telling someone on red. Like I would have used it to my advantage. But they didn't. So there I go. I got the idol. And then, multiple challenges later, really, I think it had even been the next day. Yeah, I think it was like the next day. When we were doing the slingshot challenge, there was some sort of malfunction going on with the game. And so we were just sitting there waiting, and it was Jasmine, John, and Emily that were at the slingshot challenge. And with me was Brandon and Becca. And at this point, the only person that knew I had the idol was Cameron. Because of course, after I had it, I told him. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, all right, let me see what we can talk about. And I was just like, oh, hey, like, how you guys doing in the game? Like trying to shoot like small talk, like, how you guys doing in the game? And Jasmine was just glaring at me. And I was just like, oh my God, like what, why do people hate me so much? And Emily, super smiley. So I'm like thinking like, yeah, all right. And, I'm like, so how are your alliances? And Jasmine just instantly was like, how's your idol you took? Or something like along that effect. And I was just like, what? And then she's like, yeah, we know you have an idol. And so Becca and Brandon are there. So I'm like, frig, I don't want them to know that I have the idol. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I don't have it. How do you think I got Nick out? Just to try to get it to be like, oh, I don't have it. Just try to make it
end the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Like put this veil over it. Like, no, I don't have it anymore. And then luckily the game started going again. The sketchy part was like, once the game got done, I was kind of like, all right, how am I going to play this out? So I admitted it to Brandon. I think at this point, everything gets hazy. I'm pretty sure at this point I admitted it to Brandon. Like, I do have the idol, but I don't want people to know, kind of thing. And we're all in a circle and we're talking. And I'm like, yeah, Jasmine was so rude to me. And I was like telling people about it. And then Becca starts to talk. And it's like she's almost going to say, yeah, she called her out for having. And then all of a sudden somebody interrupted the conversation.
Oh, my God.
It was like perfect timing. Like somebody interrupted the conversation. We moved along. And Becca never said anything again to me. And it just kind of got put under the carpet. And so it was like really lucky because at that point it was like, oh, my God, Yeah. But then the game started moving really quickly. And at one point I don't even remember exactly when, but at one point I ended up telling like multiple people. Like it was just like, all right, like it's time for people to know that I have the idol because it's kind of out there. But I kind of had hit it for a few more challenges. Mm-hmm.
So eventually everyone knew.
Eventually everybody knew, like once we hit the merge, okay. all blue knew once we hit the merge. And then obviously red knew because they saw me do it. But I had tried to pull that whole like, oh, I got Nick out. So I figured there was some confusion, some question whether I had it or not. And that was kind of the thing. Like I just wanted people to be confused.
Talking about confusion, how about that first time that the Blue Tribe went to Tribal?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When we voted out Nick.
Yeah.
So originally, and I may be wrong, originally like people were throwing out Tony's name, at least around me. But I was like, oh, no, I know Nick's pointing at me. Like, I just felt like I could see it in his face. There was, like, all this, like, conversation going on. And, like, I'm really good at reading people. And I watch people. I'm, like, really observant. And so that was, like, probably something that helped me in the game. But I could tell they were being shady. And it was, like, I didn't want to use my idol yet. Like, I wanted to keep it as long as I could. Or I wanted to use it to my advantage. Use it to me and Cameron's advantage. Use it to my tribe's advantage. Like, I wanted to hold on to it. And so everybody was talking and, the original person I thought was Tony. And then Tricky's name came up. Like people were like, no, we got to vote out vote out Tricky. And then Nick was just getting shady. And then he comes up to me and I was like, I know you're throwing my name around. And I'm pretty sure Tricky's the one who came and told me. So then him and Tricky end up getting into an argument, or like they're like going back and forth. Like one's trying to say they'll vote out the other and the other one's saying they'll vote out the other, when really they were saying my name from the beginning. So somehow I twisted that around. And then Nick comes up to me and I said, I think you have an idol. I think you have an idol. And he was like, I don't. I'll take my clothes off and show you that I don't have an idol. And I was like, well, I don't need you to do that. But like, you know, I'm not trusting you. Like you're running around talking, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't trust you, period. And he really tried to like make his bid to me. Like, I'm not voting you. I'm not voting you. And I just went around and whispered, we got to get out Nick to everybody. And people were pretty much down. And then we voted out Nick. You know, I was willing to vote out like Tony from the beginning, in a way. Like it was like, whatever, if that's what the team wants to do, I'm fine with it. But then really I would have voted out Nick shortly after if I didn't vote him out the first time, if I had the power. So yeah, that was a difficult vote off. I mean, I don't think people felt good about it. It always sucks to go home first. So it was just kind of tough to send someone home. You know, they're going to be upset. Like we all would have been upset if we went home first. You're losing out on the experience and you're going home first on your tribe. So that just sucks.
Okay. What happened after that? I don't remember.
After the tribal of Nick, well, then we voted out Tricky.
Oh, that's right. So was that a more straightforward decision?
I feel like it was. I feel like I started after the vote with Nick. I was talking to people and I was just petitioning like Tricky is being too loose. Like he's talking to everybody. You can't trust him, but you also can't tell if he's like being sly. And, you know, I guess it's kind of an oxymoron, like if you can tell if people are being sly, but I almost would prefer a quiet slyness over like Tricky, who I could visually and audibly see and hear him switching up his strategy like every minute. He was too scared, I think. Like I feel like he got so nervous that he just didn't necessarily know what to do. Like I don't think that he had fully like calculated through in that moment what was going on with Nick, because that's where I was just like, I can't work with Tricky, because I wanted to at one point. I thought he would be a good player to play with through the game, but at that point it was like, oh, you can't trust him and he's too loose. Like he's not a good liar. So for me, it was a pretty straightforward vote. I think it was pretty much unanimous other than his vote. So, you know, he went home. That's probably the first time I cried in the game was when he did his little speech. Like that kind of hit my heart.
Tell me about this.
Well, when Tricky, you know, got voted out, he just kind of turned around and was like, you know, this was, you know, my dream and Survivor is my passion kind of thing. And, you know, he went out honorably, but he was upset and he was crying. And he had actually cried. Actually, I didn't say this, but he was quite emotional after the Nick vote out. Oh, wow. To the point where, I mean, I was consoling him after. Like, he was crying, and I was just like, you know, he had his buff up over his face, and I was just like, dude, it's okay to be emotional. And I think at that moment, he realized, like, what was I doing? I was too all over the place. And, you know, I don't want to speak for him, so it'll be interesting what his perception is. But he was super emotional after the Nick vote out. So then when we voted him out, which really wasn't that long after, I mean, I don't even remember the timeline. It went by so quickly, like, but he went out right after, I think, and he was pretty emotional when he left, and it kind of hit me because I really liked Tricky, and I liked his passion for the game of Survivor. And you know, we're all Survivor fans, but there was different levels of Survivor, you know, fandom. Yes. And I think Tricky was one that it's like a heart thing for him. Like he loves Survivor, and for me, I'm more of like I'm fascinated by the you know, intricacies of the strategy of Survivor. So for him, it was an emotional send off. But, you know, I have mad love for Tricky. I think he's a good person. I would totally hang out with Tricky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he seems like a cool guy. So yeah.
So after the Tricky vote, the swap didn't happen right away. I think the other tribe went right before the swap. They had someone quit. What were you thinking at that moment?
When someone quit?
The other Jasmine quit.
Right. When she quit, what was I thinking?
Strategically, what were you thinking?
I was pumped. I thought they were strategically, like, I thought they made a very bad move, the red team.
Yes.
Because that's right, like that morning, and we didn't see that tribal council. Obviously, we didn't watch them, but there was like, they had that tribal council where they sent Michael home.
Yeah.
And then we did that challenge with the slingshot.
Oh, okay.
Or something. We did a challenge. And then they had another, they didn't have a tribal council. And I think we lost somebody, right? I think that's when we voted somebody out, maybe. And we were tied up with numbers.
Yes.
And it was like, all right, we're tied up with numbers, you know, whatever. Like, we wanted to be up, but we weren't. And then all of a sudden, the rumors going around that Jasmine's quitting. Well, we saw her. All of a sudden, we see her taking off on, like, the little buggy. And, you know, the little side-by-side. And we're like, oh, my God, where is she going? If she's leaving property, she's, you know, maybe she's the one who got her hand cut. Because of course, there's, like, all these rumors going around that we don't know about. And we had heard about, like, Forrest cutting his hand, but we didn't know it was Forrest.
Wow.
So, you know, we're all speculating, like, maybe she's the one that got her hand cut and she has to leave. And, you know, it was that morning that she was being rude to me.
Yes.
Like, it was that morning during that slingshot challenge. Exactly. So the slingshot challenge was that day, with the painted balls or whatever. And we were just like really confused. And then as we're like over there, it was like, you know, oh, she quit. Okay, cool. Because now it was supposed to be 15-15. And now we were at like what? 14, I think, right? Like, so then it was
right. I think they would have had 8 and you would have had 7, right? And now it's 7-7 going into the.
Oh, is that what it was?
I think so.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think we were down. Yeah, I think we ended up being down 1. Right. We lost that stupid slingshot challenge where Jasmine was mean to me, and then we had to send someone home. And then we had to send someone home, right? And it was like, all right, now that was when we sent Tricky home.
Yeah.
And then we were 7 and then to 8, and we were going to go into this merge or flipping teams. Cause of course we're speculating about like, what's going on? Are we going to merge? Are we flipping teams? And, we were pumped. We were like, yes, now we have even numbers, going into the tribe thing. And then, you know, we kind of could see the 3 colored things. Like, of course, we're looking around wondering what's happening. And so we had seen that it was going to be 3. We could tell, we could tell by the way they had set up the maps from kind of afar. And so it was like, all right, there's going to be 3. And then we kind of started strategizing, which nobody went by. Like, nobody went with the freaking plan, Sarah.
Yeah.
And so it got messed up because I had even said to Cameron, like, we need to get the numbers. Like, we need to figure out a way to, you know, get the numbers on our side, because in our minds, kind of, we were blue strong. Like, we want to get to the merge and be blue strong and be up on the numbers.
Right.
And so we had, you know, talked about like, who, you know, can we put somebody on a team by themselves and they can play the idol, make, you know, kind of throw the game, and they can throw the challenge. That way they end up going to tribal, and then they can play an idol, and then we're up on the numbers. Like, we were trying to figure out, or at least I was trying to figure out lots of ways to kind of manipulate the numbers. And then the picks happened, and it worked in my favor because I got put on a team with 4 blue and 1 red, you know, me, Brandon, Cameron, Becca, and Becky. And so it was like, all right, well, at least on our team, if we're going to vote somebody out, if we end up going to tribal, it was kind of an easy vote in my mind. Like, we're going to vote out Becky.
Right.
She's red. And luckily we didn't have to do that. And I was kind of happy that it was Jess that was on the team, that she was alone. Because if anybody was going to go home, I wanted it to be Jess, because she was kind of my next target at that point, because she was just so good in challenges. Like, she already had a resume to win at the end. You know, like the whole game, I was worried about my resume. What am I doing? I need to make some moves. I need to do this. Like, I was worried the whole time, like, that I needed to build a resume. So that's kind of what I was doing. But
did you know she had an idol at that point?
She didn't have an idol at that point, right? Or did she have?
Did, yeah.
She did have an idol at that point.
So you did not know?
No, because I thought she found it in Tribal.
That was the second idol that she found.
So the first one, when did she find it?
That afternoon, in between challenges. I don't know which ones, so I don't know if she had it going into the one where you voted out Tricky. I'm not sure. But I know it was pretty early in the day that she found it in a porta potty.
Oh, right. She told me she had found one in the bathroom. I thought she had found it right before Tribal, but either way, I didn't, because I was trying to be all sketchy. Like, so we went and had that challenge, and like, looking at the teams, our team was the underdog team, and it was kind of like, in my mind, I was like, well, with our, team of the 3 tribes, like, we have the underdog team, but at the same time, we are up on the numbers, and we could vote out Becky.
Right. Underdog, you mean physically? Compared to,
physically.
Like the Justin tribe and the Toby tribe.
Right, because one tribe had Justin, Katie, Jess.
Yeah, Katie was... Oh, yeah, that whole tribe. They lost everything, but they were the strongest. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, looking at it, it was like, oh, great. Like, they'll win. At least maybe Jess won't go home, which was a number. But if she does go home, oh, well, because that's who I was kind of targeting. Then the other team, the blue team, they had Forrest and Toby, and Sarah was on that team, and then Emily and Tony. So it's like they were a pretty good team. And then there was our team, which I felt like, physically was kind of more of the underdog team.
Okay.
And then we friggin' kicked ass in the calling.
No, stop. You kicked ass in that. That's the one that I keep telling people. Jasmine was amazing in that challenge.
I know. Like, I screamed, and I am like such a screamer. Like, I knew that I would be good at that, but I didn't know I would be that good at it. Like, Well, and Becky and Brandon like took directions perfectly.
They did. I was impressed with all 3 of you, but especially you.
Yeah. It was like a dance. I mean, honestly, and like literally Brandon was dancing on the field, but it really was. And like, we all 3 of us were like pro strategy, and so we were standing there and we were not even paying attention to what anything else was going on. We were literally strategizing the whole time. While they had their blindfolds off, I'm whispering in their ear like, all right, I'm going to point you in this direction. You're going to go here. Like, we completely set up what we wanted to do. I was telling them what the puzzle looked like, oh, it's a geometric puzzle, like
awesome.
And then we kicked ass at that challenge, and it felt good because it was like, oh, you guys thought we were going to be the weakest team, ha ha ha. Now we won toothbrushes, which was friggin' awesome, deodorant, which really didn't help because the shirt stunk so bad anyway. And so we got to go just chill, and that was kind of a moment of like freeness from the game, I felt like, because we had so much time because they were doing 2 tribals, that we went and sat on those like logs, and we brushed our teeth, we put on deodorant, and we all just kind of chilled. And it actually was like a nice moment in the game. Like, I really liked that tribe, like our little second Skitter tribe. Like, it was kind of a cute little tribe. But yeah, like, that was good. And then Jess, we were anxiously awaiting if Jess was going to make it through or not. That was though I can't wait to watch that shit on TV. Like, I can't. I mean, that was when we could see that it was Jess, it was like, she made it. And then Sarah, like, to me, it was like, I felt bad. Like, I wanted to work with her. She's my friend. Like, we hadn't completely work together because we were trying not to have targets, but I knew instantly she shot herself in the foot. She made herself the number one vote off. Like, they weren't going to vote off Tony, and they weren't going to vote off a red. So if they went to tribal, sorry, Sarah.
What were you thinking while she was making those choices?
I was lipping to her. I was literally like trying to tell her what are you doing? And then it was just too far gone. And I was just like, all right. I mean, I guess I feel safe. I have an idol in my pocket if I need it. And I'm on a team with one red. So I felt pretty safe in that moment. But yeah, I was just like, what are you doing? And I said it so many times. Like, I love her. Her and I have been friends for years. She played with her heart instead of her head.
Yes.
Which made her a very likable person.
Yes.
You know, like, everybody very much likes her. And, you know, I think that she found a lot of value in the game, regardless of being voted out early-ish. Mm-hmm. But, you know, she played with her heart instead of her head. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. So.
Yeah, no, she was super fun.
She is.
Fun person.
And she stayed and helped, which I like. She was like really one of the only people that like really like stayed after being voted out and like really put the effort in, I feel like.
Yeah, I think she was the first one that actually stayed.
There was the first red girl stayed for a while.
Well, that's right. She showed up the next day. But she had been friends with Liza and her people for a long time. So maybe she felt some kind of I don't know. She needed to help out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that first night, then, you guys don't have to vote anyone out, and you're at this new camp. What did you think about the new camp?
Well, first when we go back, like the place that the blue little taggy thing in the woods was like, where are we going? Like, what is this? There was literally like the spot had like broken glass and like rusty metal, and people were trying, all of a sudden people, you know, because people were so friggin' worried about like what people would think about them at camp, that they were like instantly are starting to like gather wood, and they're not like paying attention to like, we don't want to sleep here. So
you mean the first night?
Yeah, like the first night. So I'm like, what are we doing? You know? And so I'm like, let's walk around and look. Like I see an open path. And so then we found like the most awesome place to kind of set up camp. I mean, Lombard definitely had the best campsite.
By far, yeah.
Yeah, by far. As far as the first night at Skitter with the 4 Blue and Becky, it was wicked dark when we got there. And you know, I remember looking at it being like, oh my God, how did you guys fit freaking 10 people sleeping here?
Right.
Like, it was like probably an eighth of the size of our like general area at the Lombard campsite.
Yes.
So I couldn't even believe that they fit that many people. I mean, there was barely any room other than in the road. So it was just like, oh my God, how'd you guys sleep? I was impressed by the shelter that they had kind of constructed. Like, you can tell that there was some people on the tribe, you know, Justin Forrest, who are pretty knowledgeable of building outdoor shelters. So I was impressed by that. We had won those hammocks in one of the challenges.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were like trying, like maybe for 5 minutes, we looked around for a place to hang the hammocks, and we were like, there's no place. And so we ended up, it actually worked out really well because we put it down on the ground, like over the pine needles on the ground, and it actually made a nice bed. So that worked. But yeah, we all were pretty pooped. Like me, Cameron, and Brandon, which were 3 out of the 5 on the Skitter, were the 3 like team no sleep from the first night. So us 3 crashed pretty quickly. Becca stayed up and did some of the fire for a little while, and you know, Becky kind of crashed pretty quickly too. And then at one point, you know, we were hearing the coyote, well, at least I was hearing the coyotes, which,
oh my God,
you know, they're like screaming. It sounds like little schoolgirls screaming, and it's creepy. And so that had kind of woke me up, and I was just kind of laying there, and I was staring at the stars because the fire had kind of gone out, and I thought I saw like a UFO. And then that was creeping me out. And so I got up and, tended to the fire a little more and then went back to sleep. But it was a super chill night that night. Like I felt like the second Skitter tribe was a little bit of reprieve in a way. Like it was smaller, so you didn't have to worry as much about, there wasn't so many moving parts of like people talking. And so it did feel like a little bit of a rest from strategy in a way. I mean, we were still all strategizing, but
you were, even though you should have been totally safe at that point.
Yeah, I know. But we had to, right? Like, you just can't get out of that mode. At least I couldn't.
Yeah. So then the next day, what happened? The next day you find out who was voted out of the purple tribe. Were you surprised?
Yeah. I was kind of like, had no idea if she was going to make it or not. I assumed she didn't.
Yeah.
I assumed she didn't. But then, people were kind of throwing around rumors and hypothesizing that Justin and Jess had been talking and they've got this military bond.
Yeah.
And so we questioned that. And so when we saw that she had made it, it was like, all right, cool. Like we have the numbers a little bit, now we have the numbers. Now it was, no, it was even again because Sarah went home.
Yeah. Yeah. Later. Yeah.
Oh, she went home later that day?
Yes, because they had the spaghetti dinner the night before. And then the tribal council, they started at like midnight. And so the next day was that you guys won and the other two teams both had to go to tribal back to back. And that was when Sarah went out. And then in the purple team's tribal, you probably thought, okay, now Jess is going. Or maybe you thought she was working with Justin.
I really heavily contemplated giving Jess my idol, but at the same time, like I kind of wanted her to go home. So it was like, well, I'm not going to give her the idol, but I'm going to create this weird diversion and like just this, I don't know, like I was trying to give her an opportunity to kind of trick John. I particularly wanted John to vote Justin out. And so I was telling Cameron, like, we need to make a fake idol. Let's make a fake idol. Let's go make a fake idol. We've got some stuff. We've got things we've picked up in the field. We've got things that we've gotten from, like the toothbrushes and stuff. Like we can make a fake idol so she can flash it to them. Well, we didn't have enough time. It was like, no, this is going to happen right now. You guys are going away. You're going to go brush your teeth and put on deodorant and go away. And so we didn't have time to make a fake idol. So I had this like piece of red fabric that I had just carried around with me in case I needed it for something. And so I went over to Jess and I like whispered to her and I was just like, pretend you have the idol, pretend you have the idol. And I like took this red piece of thing and shoved it in her pocket because I knew, they knew I had the idol. Right. So it was like, look, they're going to think I'm giving her the idol so that they have, whatever. So it was like a bargaining chip for her, I was hoping. That she would bargain with it and be like, no, Jasmine gave me her idol. So, let's vote this person out. I'll do this for you. Like it was up to her to strategize, but it was just like, here, I'm offering you this kind of like wiggle room, like kind of last bid kind of thing. Right. And then she luckily found an idol because they weren't having it. Yeah. They were going to flush the idol out if they had to. I was just hoping that somebody would, if she didn't have the idol, one of the other people would turn on each other. That way it would have been, if she did have the idol that she, like if they thought she had the idol, they would know that it would either go, it would essentially be Jess's decision. So it was like, really, she could have petitioned for that. But luckily she found the idol and didn't have to. Right. So she was like a cat. She had 9 lives. You know? Until she didn't anymore. Until she didn't and went home with an idol in her pocket. Sorry, Jess. Which I was so mad at myself about that freaking idol the third idol she found because it was like so stupid. Like so we merge at one point, like eventually we merge pretty much after that. Yeah. And it's like, oh, we're going to have this, little get together and tribal and we're going to eat. And, oh, look, you can see before we even went in, you can see this like bucket of freaking buffs. And I'm like, oh, classic Survivor, that's where there's going to be an idol or there's going to be a clue. So I'm like beelining. Like I remember telling Brandon, like, we got to get to that box. We got to get to that box first. We got to get in there. So I like beeline in and I like, you know, like touched my hand all around and I'm like, oh, I didn't see anything, but I didn't want to look obvious. Like I already knew people thought I was sketchy. So I'm like, all right, I'll only be partially sketchy.
Yeah.
So I'm like feeling around and I didn't feel anything. And so I grabbed a buff. And then like 5 minutes later, we're sitting there and Jess goes to grab her buff and oh, there she is. She picks up pretty much the first one and it's a freaking idol. And I was just so mad at myself because I like literally had my hand in there. And that's when I was like, I got to blindside Jess.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, that's when things started to get more. The merge is when I really got paranoid about people and when I got like, it's like the mood shifted from like, ooh, I'm having fun, I'm playing the game, to holy shit, I'm being a bitch.
Right at the merge was when that happened?
Kind of. Like in the beginning, it was like kind of a fun, like, oh, this is Survivor, people will get it. And then, you know, as you make these connections and these connections get a little stronger because you're like with them for so many hours in a row and sleeping on ground next to them, it's like, shit, I gotta blindside them. I gotta backstab them. I gotta talk behind their back. And I'm really not that kind of person in real life. So it kind of sucks. I hate I'm not a fake person. So I had to be fake and it sucked, but that's just the way to play the game in my mind.
Mm-hmm. And you did well at it.
Yeah.
So when did you start thinking about, or did you ever, I'm not sure that you ever did. Did you ever start thinking about turning on, not being blue strong at some point after the merge?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So it was, so when we went into the merge with what, like 6 blue. We went into the merge with 6 blue and
5 red? Yeah.
5 red?
I think that's right.
Right, because then we had, because we ended up with 11 instead of 12, because Forrest left.
Yeah. Okay, so you had an advantage going in.
Right. We had an advantage going in, 6-5. And it felt like they were pretty strong together. Like they weren't even talking to me. Like I was so mad. Like it was like, why are these people not talking to me? Like I am so the least likely to flip. Why are they not coming and talking to me? At least I felt like I was the most likely to flip. And they weren't talking to me. And then, we voted out Emily first. So she was the first member of the jury. And then we voted out Forrest. During that time, like that was all kind of rapid fire. I feel like, and during that time, it was like trying to strategize wasn't really happening. There wasn't a ton of time, and Red just wasn't really talking. And it felt like Blue was kind of like, yeah, no, we're Blue strong. We're gonna do this. Yeah. And so I was kind of like into it for a little while because I definitely wanted to get out a couple of the stronger players on Red. And nobody was really listening to me because like why we would vote out, like I wasn't wanting to vote out Emily first. Yeah. Like I wanted to vote out Justin. Justin was my number one target the instant we went over there, Justin and Forrest. Like, you know, I wanted to get them out, but for whatever reason, my team wanted to vote out Emily first.
I know that they were worried Justin had the idol.
It was like their team idol.
Yeah.
And
they kept passing it between each other.
Right, exactly. It was like their team idol. And maybe that's what happened is like we knew that they had that idol still. So we were kind of wondering how they were going to use it. And I'd have to go back and look and see.
Yeah, I still don't get why you wouldn't have voted out Forrest, though, instead of Emily, because he was stronger and there's no way they were going to play it on him.
Well, exactly. And I'm pretty sure that's what I was trying to petition. Yeah, because we didn't know if they would play the idol for Justin or Toby, and we didn't have enough to like split vote.
Right.
So it was like, in my mind, it was like we need to vote for Forrest because they're not going to play it on Forrest. But we went with the easy kind of like, let's just vote Emily because they won't think we're going to vote for her.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
It worked out for you all.
It did. I mean, kind of. Maybe not for me, but it worked out. But yeah, then there was like this, like, then Forrest went out, and that was kind of like dramatic, and it was like, you know, it felt weird. It felt like you could tell he wasn't a real fan. Like he said he's never watched because he chose to leave and not stay on the jury. And
that's a quit to me.
Yeah, me too. Because like, that's part of your commitment, right?
Exactly.
Like I knew going here, like if I got voted out first at the merge, I was going to stay and be on the jury. And me and Sarah had planned, like, if we go out, we're staying and going to help. Like that's what she did. So I was kind of upset that Forrest did that because it kind of messed with the, you know, the rest of the game in a way, like with the jury. But I mean, not completely. It didn't make a huge difference.
Right.
But that was super dramatic. And then we went into the stupid touchy subjects challenge.
Oh, let's talk about that. Go ahead.
Which was super touchy for me because it was like, that's kind of when my eyes opened up to, wow, Red hates me. Or, you know, not hates me, but like Red is targeting me. Like I really didn't realize how much of a threat I was until Red started calling me out in tribals. And I don't remember the first tribal, but there was that tribal with Justin and Toby. Right.
Jasmine, that was the best tribal. I was so excited. I felt like I was watching the real CBS show. Like, this is amazing.
I know. And I felt like I was there. It was like, oh my God, this shit's hitting the fan. Yeah. Here we go. Like, everything's coming out. But that was like, I hope that the camera got my face when they started doing that, because I was literally like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't realize how much I was being, you know, targeted.
No, they all thought you were running the show.
Well, I can see why they thought that.
Yeah.
And I definitely was more, they definitely witnessed some more of my shady behavior from afar, or from like during the slingshot challenge when I was trying to talk to them, or like other times when I tried to talk to people or whatnot, or when they saw me get the idol. So I can see where they saw that I was doing some kind of strategy.
Right.
But yeah, when they called me out, I was just like, oh my God, like they're literally, they almost like made it so I didn't win the game, to be honest, because if they never would have called me out, I think that people might have brought me to the final three from blue, not realizing how I was perceived by red.
Yeah.
So like, you know, after the game and stuff, like that's something that I've thought about, is that Toby and Justin really like called me out and made it, you know, kind of emphasize the fact that I was kind of playing hard to the blue team. Mm-hmm. So, you know, then it must have been the touchy subjects challenge where I really realized, because it was both of those times. It was during the touchy subjects challenge and during that tribal council with Justin and Toby that I realized how much I was being targeted, because during the touchy subjects challenge, it was like every answer pretty much was me. They're knocking off my friggin' discs. Like Justin and Toby both knocked my discs off first. I'm like literally like the first person with the broken discs. Everybody's answering these questions for me, you know, bad and good. Like there was a couple good ones where they chose me, like, you know, I mean, when pretty much everybody voted that you know, who do you think's going to win the game? And everybody voted me. I was like, all right, so these people are recognizing that I am playing the game. So that was kind of an eye-opening moment of like, all right, maybe I'm a little too transparent.
True.
But you have to be transparent to have your resume be seen too. So yeah, that was interesting. I was super annoyed by being called annoying. Like that bothered me the most. Like we didn't go through all the answers, and obviously we just did it till Tony won, because Tony is the one who won. Freaking Tony, who called me annoying, is the one who won that challenge. But like, I was super annoyed that people thought I was annoying because, you know, it was Tony, Toby, and Justin all voted my name on the blackboard.
Right.
And
But
so
not on paper.
well, right. Like knowing now. And I was like, oh my God, why am I annoying? And then the winning name was me. And I'm like, wow, people think I'm annoying because I'm not a baseline annoying person.
Yeah.
Like, nothing else offended me. I don't care if they would have said that I was worst at challenges. I don't care if they say that I'm the smelliest. Like, I really didn't care about that stuff. But like being called annoying was like, it's like a personality trait. And
yes.
Yeah. And I don't feel like I'm a baseline annoying person. And then, you know, thinking that it's going to be on TV, it's like, oh, great. Now, like, you know, so
yeah.
That bothered me to be called annoying. And then, you know, come to find out, like afterward, I had asked Toby and Justin, like, I was like, do you guys really think that I'm annoying? Like, this was like after the game, like after final tribal, I was like, do you guys really think I'm annoying? And they were like, no, we just were trying to figure out who the other team would think was annoying. And we thought you were kind of annoying because of the way you were playing the game so well.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I just kind of chalked it up to, all right, I'll take it as a compliment.
And I hope that it gets shown on the show that that paper part took place while Forrest was still there.
Well, exactly.
Because he got all the votes.
Exactly. I mean, that was a shoo-in for me. I mean, that was the first question on the paper, too. Like, when we filled it out, it was like, who's most annoying? Forrest. Like, no offense, Forrest, but he just was... he was a little showboatish, you know?
Yes.
And so
it's the showboating that's the annoying part. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, because whenever I had personal conversations with him, like about his work and stuff, you know, because he has multiple works, but one of his things that he does is mental health related, and I work in the mental health field. So like we had some good conversations. So I don't think he's an annoying person per se, but he showboats. And so to me, it was an obvious choice for annoying. So yeah, that bothered me. None of the rest of it bothered me. What a little bit bothered me was that I started to feel a little targeted at that point. A little like people, maybe they don't like me, and like it just never feels good to not have people like you, you know, even though you're playing Survivor. It's just like I don't like it when people don't like me. And that's not really the real me. So it's like, so that was kind of hard. And, you know, that's when things started to kind of click a little bit. And I paid attention to every answer that everybody said, because I gained some intel there, you know, and I really paid attention to what everybody said. It was like, oh, okay. You know, like, all right. And that challenge, I liked it. And Brandon had been talking about it the whole time. Like, I hope they do touchy subjects. And then we do it. And it really was one of my favorite challenges, but it was, you know, tough for me at the same time.
Yeah. Was that the point where did you come to think that maybe everyone else was perceiving you as the biggest threat or a big threat in the game?
Yeah, like when they all, I mean, I think the majority of people voted that they thought I was going to win the game. And I had voted I actually had a hard time answering that question myself, because it was like, who's going to win the game? Like, you know, and I voted Toby.
Oh.
Like, even though in that moment I knew that Red was down, I at that point was trying to scheme to work with him, and I just felt like he was kind of a likable player and good in challenges. Like he was kind of had the trifecta thing going on, which is a good player to me. Like those are the players I like in the real Survivor. So I voted for Toby. So at that moment, I was like, oh, okay, like people really do see that I'm playing a hard game. And so I did start to feel targeted, for sure.
Did you change up anything that you were doing at that point? Or even after the tribal where they, Justin and Toby were calling you out?
Oh, I started like walking around, like, I started walking around just like, don't forget about your long game, everybody. Like, I was kind of ridiculous, honestly. Like looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like what was I doing? But I would just walk by people and be like, gosh, we can't forget about our long game. And we need to think about our resumes, like trying to insert this like kind of thoughts in certain people's minds. Because at that point, like there were, once Forrest went home, there were 6, 7, 8 of us left, maybe, or 9. And there was multiple people on the tribe that I felt like were already at a point where they didn't have a reason to win the game. Mm-hmm. If that makes any sense. And I'm not trying to be mean, but there were just people who didn't have a resume at that point. And at that point I felt like people needed to already kind of have a resume.
Yeah.
To actually win in the final 3. So it was kind of like, you know, work on your resumes, people, which was like, we need to get out Justin and Toby. And then we had another night tribal where it was just Justin and Becky left, right?
Yeah.
And that one was the silent tribal where we were had to stand on those logs.
Yes.
Like the balancing beams. And she was like, you guys can't talk. We had a challenge or something. And then she was like, all right, you guys can't talk. And yeah, the challenge was standing on the balance beam. You can't talk. But if you want to talk, you have to say, I'm getting down, and then you can go talk. Mm-hmm. And I was eyeing Justin, like, talk to me, like trying to get him to talk to me. Because before we even went into the fence, I was like trying to eye him, like, I'm willing to flip. Yeah. And that wasn't the first time, because before we voted out Toby, I was eyeing him and Justin so hard. Like, so after the touchy subjects challenge, yeah, before we went into that tribal where they called me out, which is maybe why they called me out, I was like eyeing them, like trying to make eye contact, like, hey, like, can we talk? Like, and they just wouldn't even look at me. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't acknowledge my sketchy behavior. And so I was like, whatever. So we went with the plan and, you know, voted out Toby or whatever. And, but yeah, so then we go to that balancing beam challenge, and it was night, and it was after that crazy tribal prior. So we go to the balancing beam. She says that whole thing, it's silent, but if you get off the balancing beam, you have to announce it and you can talk. So I'm like, I get up there and I'm like, I want to talk. And she's like, well, not yet. And I'm like, all right, I look sketchy, but whatever.
Oh yeah, you did it before everyone got on the beams. You said it before she even like finished her sentence.
Yeah, I was like, I want to talk. And,
that was great.
Yeah, because I was like ready to flip for Justin. This is where I was like trying to make a move and trying to get rid of certain people on the blue team. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, you know, yeah, like, I want to talk. And so Justin gets my clue. Yes. Because he decides to get off the beam too. Well, so does everybody else. Yeah, because the beam was so friggin' hard to stand on. And partially they were probably worried about what I was going to talk to Justin about. So I never got to talk to Justin. So then we go back and sit on the beams and we start doing tribal. And I'm like looking around and I'm paranoid at this point. And Cameron's looking at me like, don't worry, we're doing, who did we vote out?
Justin.
Yeah, okay, so that's the night Justin. It was like, no, don't worry about it. We're just going to vote out Justin. And I was like, all right, you know, whatever, fine. At least as long as it's not me, you know, because I was like kind of worried, like, do I play my idol? Mm-hmm. Are they going to backstab me? Because that was after that whole Toby and Justin, you know, kind of call out at the previous tribal. So I'm making eyes at Justin. Like, I'm pointing at Becca. At this point, I'm like, vote out Becca, you know, like I'm literally like putting my hand on my chin, just pointing at her.
Why Becca?
At that moment, I just wanted to get, Becca had been being a little bit, she was getting super paranoid about people putting her name down and like voting her out. And it was getting to the point of almost Tricky level. Like it reminded me of Tricky, where she started to spin out. Like she was spinning out too much. Like, oh my God, like she thought she was going to be voted out. And so it was like, all right, time to vote you out. And so I was just pointing at Becca because to me it was just like we already had blue numbers quite a bit. It didn't matter to me to lose a blue.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start flipping because at that point we had, I thought maybe I could work on red a little bit and then have at least one person from blue be with me. So I'm pointing at Becca, and then, Liza's talking, she's talking about how, whatever, tribal, and we go around, we're doing our little spiels, and I was talking about how I was paranoid and nervous, and I said, can we talk to people? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. So then this whole, whisper central ensues, and
Yes.
I whisper to Justin, just don't put my name down. Hoping he would just say, okay. And I don't know in the moment if I would have actually believed him, but I was just like, just don't put my name down.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what? And I said, just don't put my name down. He's like, well, who do I put down? And I was like, it doesn't matter. Because I really didn't care at that point.
Okay.
I honestly did not care because I was ready to make a move to flip and just shake up the game. I was ready to shake it up and it be my decision in a way.
Wait, so how would that have worked then?
I was going to play my idol for Justin.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
What? Jasmine?
Yeah. I was going to play my idol for Justin.
So Justin completely blew it.
He did. And I told him after the game. And I even went up to, because then he's like, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This was me just being like, you're going to be my new alliance to Justin.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable pulling in a couple people from blue. So I felt like I could do it. And plus I wanted Jess out too. So it was all right. So then he goes, well, who you pick? Cause it was all right. And I was like, Jess. And then he calls me out.
Yeah.
She just said to vote out Jess.
So dumb.
And I never told him that I was going to play my idol for him. I was just being vague, just don't put my name down. Just don't put my name down. And instead of doing that, because I was going to do it, I was ready to just be crazy. I was ready to do this crazy thing.
It would have been epic.
Right. And I was kind of worried about my resume a little bit. It was I got to show that I'm being a player, even though they had called me out. It was all right, here we go. I'm going to prove it. So then he does that, calls me out, which of course kind of put a little bit of a damper on Jess and mine's relationship.
Yeah.
Because it was, because it was just oh man, because I really liked her as a person, but I wanted her out of the game. So whatever. But yeah, he calls me out. I went up to do the vote and I even said into the camera, Justin, I would have played my idol for you. I was totally going to do that. Everybody was voting Justin. All I needed him to do was write Jess, and I would have wrote Jess too. And then I was going to play my idol and play it for Justin, and Jess would have gone home and Justin would have been saved and people would have been looking at me like I was crazy, but it would have been a move and it would have shaked things up.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go through let's say in a perfect world where Jasmine's move worked and Justin didn't well, I won't call Justin an idiot, but if Justin hadn't blown up his own game by turning on the one person who was actually willing to work with him, okay, if he had done that and this happens, who are the 4 that you're working with going forward in this final 7, it would have been?
So we would have gone down to 7. Mm-hmm. So it would have been me and Justin. And I honestly felt like Becky needed some, I felt like I could have maybe gotten Becky to be on our team because she was kind of feeling the bottom of the totem pole because she was the only red.
I think that would have worked. Okay.
So Becky, and then I felt like I could have manipulated Tony.
Tony?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't think that would have worked.
I would have tried to go with Cameron because I would have been come on, I might have tried to go with Cameron and felt people out, but ultimately in my mind, it was Becky and Tony I felt were kind of more of a shoe-in. Okay.
I think maybe Cameron would have worked, but then you have 4, you're among the 4, really strongest players.
Yeah, which didn't matter to me at that point.
Because it's just about even, and honestly, you probably, up against any of those in a final 3, you probably would have won. based on the way people were talking about you at Ponderosa.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So that would have worked. Tony, though, I'm going to tell you, you probably already know this, but he had a final 2 with Cameron that there was no way he was ever going back on.
And I felt like he had that because of, I had like kind of seen that happening. Like I could tell that was going on. Tony was very easy to read for me. Like I could kind of see. So I feel like what I would have tried to do was get Cameron and Tony and kind of figured something out like
as
that.
A 5 and then like end up blindsiding one of them at some point.
Yeah, figuring that out, or even like even getting to the final 3 with them. But I mean, I felt like Brandon was a threat all along. I liked having him around because I liked his personality. So it's like I never really wanted to vote him out, but I felt like he was a threat all around because he was so likable, so fun. He's just a character that you want to vote for.
Yeah. Okay, so Justin goes home, and now there's the 7, and it's all Blue and Becky, and you're going back to camp. And you get to go to the old, to the Lombard camp.
Yeah.
Which was the best one.
100%.
And so what were you doing strategy-wise? What were you trying to do at that point?
I was playing damage control with Jess. Because that was after, you know, the whole Justin calling me out with trying to say to vote out Jess.
Yeah.
So I was trying to play damage control with Jess, but I was doing it lightly. We were all tired. It was dark. It was, you know, I could hear people whispering around. And at that point, I really honestly was just kind of like not into strategizing. It had been like a really long day, and it was literally like the last night. Like it was like, all right, we're making it to day 4, which felt like such a huge accomplishment in itself. And just to be like 6 blue and 1 red, it was like, wow, we did really go blue strong for a long time. So that felt good, even though my plan had been foiled with Justin, which was really kind of a last minute plan anyway. It was just kind of a shake up plan. But, you know, yeah, there was a lot of things, kind of like little kind of conversations going on, but not a ton on my end. Honestly, it was just kind of like, let's see how tomorrow goes. It's day 4. I was super paranoid that people wanted me out, and I had the idol still. So I always still kind of felt a little secure for at least one tribal. And for whatever reason, they didn't push to flush out the idol, which if it were me, if I wouldn't have had the idol and this would have been somebody else, I would have instantly flushed out the idol. I would have been like, hey, we're voting for you. You better play your idol because we want it flushed out. Like, I would have.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted someone to just hold on to it, especially somebody who is already now being perceived as a threat. I would have flushed the idol for sure, but nobody did it.
Yep.
For whatever reason. But yeah, that was a good night at camp too. Like 6 and Becky really fit in with our tribe. Like it just seemed like she had been with our tribe kind of the whole time. So she was like she was like, I told her that too at one point, like you just really fit in to our tribe because we all really got along as real humans around the fire. But then, you know, the whole strategy shit comes into play, and, you know, you have to do things that people don't like. Like people have to get voted out. Like not everybody's going to be happy. So, you know, but yeah, it was a good last night. Kind of working up to the last day when, you know, you're just going to do some rapid fire vote offs because we got to get to a final 3. So it's like at this point, there's 7 of us, 4 of us are going home.
So the next day then, what are you thinking? Who are you trying to get out first? Well, Jess, I guess, even though you're trying to make her think you're not.
I was damage controlling her, and I also knew she had an idol.
Yes.
So that was another piece of it, was like I wanted to blindside her that night with Justin because I knew she had an idol. So it was like, let's vote her out and flush out her idol. And because she's good at challenges too. She doesn't even necessarily need an idol for the individual immunity challenges per se, you know? So yeah, so the next day it was like, I wanted Jess out. But we had all had a conversation about, and this was paranoia had like sunk in so much. We had all kind of had a conversation about Becky, and it was like, Becky, we're gonna vote you out. And this is where Becky's resume started to really build, in my opinion, because she bamboozled me a little bit, and I like high five her for that, because so we were all standing around after the first, or that individual immunity challenge, and I don't remember who won, if it was Brandon or Cameron at that one, I don't remember, but we did that challenge, and it was like, all right, like, we're gonna vote out Becky. And Cameron kind of had said to me to the side, like, I told Becky that we would tell her, like, she asked if we would tell her if we're gonna vote her out, like, I think we should tell her. And I'm like, yeah, let's go tell her. Let's just all go tell her as a group. Like, we liked her so much. Let's tell her as a group. And so we tell her, and she's just like, and in this moment, I feel like this was the plan, at least in my opinion, in my perception. The plan was, we're voting out Becky. All right, we're getting rid of the red. We like you, Becky, but sorry, we're voting you out. Well, then shit just starts hitting the fan before we even go into tribal, and people are throwing names around, and Becca's running around like haywire, like she's super paranoid, like running around. I can tell she's talking to everybody, and it was just like, all right, what's going on? So I'm thinking, fuck, I'm gonna have to play the idol. So I'm like, all right, I think they're gonna vote for me. I'm gonna have to play the idol. But I'm like, we gotta vote out Jess. And I hit up Cameron, and I hit up Brandon, and I'm like, we got to vote. It's time. We got to vote at Jess. She has an idol. We got to flesh out her idol. And I think it was me and Tony, of course, went with whatever we told him to vote, or particularly Cameron told him to vote. And so at that point, it was four. We voted four of us voted for Jess, and 3 voted for me, I think. I don't remember if
I think it was 2.
Okay,
2 voted
so
for you.
Becky voted for like Tony or something.
I think so. I'm not sure.
I don't remember either, but yeah, 2 people voted for me, and it was Becca and Becky, actually, I think Jess was the only one out of the loop. That's right. So I think Jess had voted for Tony.
She voted for Becky. Jess voted for Becky.
Jess voted for Becky. Okay, so
yeah.
Jess voted for Becky because that's what she thought we were doing. The 4 of us, other 4, voted for Jess, because we switched it really quickly, even though we had told Becky we were going to vote for her. Little did we know, Becky had an idol, and for some reason, her and Becca were never brought into the new plan by their little side alliance that had apparently been talking about voting me out. And so my name gets put down 2 times. I don't play the idol. I'm looking around like, Tony's like, whoa, what's going on? And I'm like, I look at Becca and I'm like, did you vote? Because Tony's like, I didn't vote for you. And I look at Becca and she's like, yeah, it was me. Good job not playing the idol. And she was pissed. She was friggin' pissed. Like, she was so mad that she wasn't in on the plan.
Yeah.
I never had time to tell her the plan that we were going to vote Jess. Little did I know she was voting for me. So don't be mad at me, because you were voting for me anyway.
Yeah.
And then, she was really mad at Cameron and Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah. She felt like betrayed by them, that they didn't tell her. They feel like they did tell her. I don't think she was there when we had the conversation, but I didn't really get into it because I felt like kind of out of that, because it was like, you put my name down, like, we're good, we're even. And then Jess went home with an idol in her pocket, and I couldn't even look her in the eye.
Oh.
I couldn't even look her in the eye, and I couldn't look her in the eye for multiple jury visits.
Oh.
Like, I couldn't even look her in the eye. I felt bad about blindsiding her. But it had to be done.
Yeah.
Strategy wise, she was just too good. She would have won a lot of the immunity challenges, and and I knew she was gunning for me in a way, so it was like, got to get her out. And then we had that crazy fucking tribal.
Yeah. After this is when Becca is so mad at Brandon and Cameron that she's running around, I think, with Becky, and I think that was when you all found out that Becky had an idol, because she decided to start telling a couple of people. She showed Tony
I didn't know Becky had an idol until she played it.
Oh, okay.
And I remember looking at her, and I remember talking to her and being like, oh, when did you find it or something? And she's like, oh, I had it for the last tribal. And I was like, girl,
she found
you
it the
have
day
balls.
before. She found it the day before.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, you have balls, as if you sat through that tribal. And she's like, well, I thought the plan was to vote you out, but luckily it was Jess. And I'm like, literally, Becky, when I told you that we were going to vote you out, I thought we were. So she was like, really? I thought you were lying to me. And I was like, no, like that was
she got
my
lucky.
plan. She did, but it was a good move for her. She made it far.
So this tribal, there's like 3 votes that happen.
Yeah, there were 1 million votes that happened. So this is when we had 6 people up. This is when I won the immunity necklace.
Yes.
Which I was like pumped to win because it was like, haha, in your faces, people who think I'm bad at challenges. Like,
oh, this was the memory one.
Yeah.
Yes. What a good challenge.
Which is like so my jam. Like it was funny because before that challenge, I had done a confessional with Jess, who's the one who made the game.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, what do you hope the game is? And I was like, memory. I hope it's memory because or a puzzle, like at least I'll have a bit at it. But like memory, I was waiting for a memory challenge because I used to be a waitress and I would never write orders down unless I had more than a 15 top. Like,
wow.
I just have a really good short-term memory. I could have kept going in that game. Like it hadn't gotten to a point where I was in distress. So I was super pumped to win that. Plus, with an idol in my pocket, it put me at the final 4.
Yes. Well,
hypothetically. Hypothetically. Which I did make it to the final 4, but I played my idol right. So that tribal council was friggin' crazy. That was crazy. So Becky plays her idol. So in my mind, we're voting out Becky. We didn't know she had an idol. Like we already told her she was going home the last time, but she didn't. I didn't know she had an idol. And so it was like, we're voting out Becky. And then she walks up and plays her idol. And so in my mind, because Becca had been so crazy, I thought Becca and Becky were voting together. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe Becca had known about the idol. So I'm thinking, ooh, who'd they pick? And in my mind, it was like, the only choice was Cameron or Brandon.
Yeah.
So I'd get my idol. Becky plays her idol. And I'm like, oh, me too. Here we go. Like instant decision. Like I was like, instant decision. Here we go. I'm playing this idol. And at this point, I was trying to get to the end with Brandon and Cameron.
Why?
At this point, it was just like, I don't really know, to be honest. There was a point where my mind kind of like realized that I could win no matter what.
Okay.
And I wanted to take them.
Okay.
Honestly. Like I felt like I could beat anybody there at that point. Like there was a point once I won that, I think it was like pretty much when I won that immunity challenge where I realized, and after I voted out Jess, like blindsided Jess, like I felt like I orchestrated that. And so I felt like at that point I had the best resume and I could beat anybody in the final 3, which sounds somewhat cocky, but like I honestly felt like it was one or the other. I felt like I really didn't quite know. Like it was like the jury either loves me or they hates me, and either way, let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Like there was so many good players left at that point. Like, it was kind of, the final 5 was a pretty tough final 5. And so at that point it was like, all right, here we go. So anyway, so Becky plays her idol and I'm like, all right, I'm playing mine. And I look over and I'm like, which one did they vote for? And I see this look on Brandon's face. And I was just like, oh my God, what is he doing? Like, I just felt a weird feeling. And in my mind, it's like, well, this idol was partially Cameron's. So I'm going to play it for Cameron. And if it's Cameron, I'm saving him. And if it's Brandon, he'll go home or whoever. And so then they read the votes and, it was Cameron. So luckily it saved Cameron. And I felt like I owed it to him. And I felt like if Cameron made it to the jury for some reason, like if we were to vote him out next or something, that it would be a bargaining chip for me to have his vote too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did feel like I owed him, like integrity wise, I felt like he did own that idol a little bit. So
Sure.
I felt a little tied to that.
But he didn't though, because it was yours.
Yeah. It was a weird move, and I figured people will probably be like, what the heck was she doing? But at that point, I was kind of like ready to take Brandon and Cameron to the final three. That was kind of my choice at that point. I know I wasn't theirs, but at that point, that's who I kind of wanted to take to the final three. And I just felt like Tony, if it were for $1 million, and maybe this is where my mind shifted in ways where it was like, if this were for $1 million, I might have played a little differently at times.
Okay.
But because the stakes weren't super high and it was just like really for the experience and for the fun, there was something that shifted in my brain that was like, all right, I want to go with Brandon and Cameron to the end because I played with them the whole time. Yeah. And so that was kind of a piece of it. And my brain started getting foggy toward that time anyway. Like, it was like, oh, I need to eat and sleep. But
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I just wonder what would have happened if you hadn't played the idol on him. Would you have actually made it to final three? Because
I know.
He's the reason that you didn't.
Right. I know.
The irony.
I know. The irony. Well, like, and believe me, I've gone over this many times in my head. Like, how could I have gotten to the final three? Because that's where I didn't outlast, and I made some mistakes because obviously I didn't make it to the final three. Like I knew I kind of needed to win that fourth challenge, but I knew I wasn't going to, like, looking at it. Like, I was like, oh, Jesus, like, there's no chance. Like, I'm going up against three guys who all three were pretty good in challenges. So it was like, I kind of knew I didn't have a chance. And I was just hoping that Cameron wouldn't take Brandon because I felt like it wasn't an easy decision to choose me or Brandon. Like, who would you rather take? Who do you think you can beat over Brandon or me? And Cameron had been talking up probably because he was, in case I won, he would want me to take him rather than Brandon. But he was talking up so much about how people vote for the likable player. That's in the end, people vote for the likable player. And so I did think I had a little bit of a chance of Cameron taking me to the end. We all knew Tony was going if with Brandon or Cameron, like either one of them won, they were taking Tony. So that was not a thing, but like he was talking Brandon up so much that I thought there was a little bit of a chance, but I think that was just him strategically kind of setting that into my mind so that I would choose him over Brandon. And honestly, I would have chose him over Brandon. I would have taken him over taking Brandon if I wasn't going to take them both, if I were going to take Tony. But
that would have been a better move too.
To take Tony.
I mean, obviously, since Brandon won, but I think taking Cameron and Tony, you still would have won easily. I think more easily than Brandon did.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows what would have gone down during that final tribal? Like, who knows what you each would have said? Because I know that the jury was very swayed. They went into it thinking they were voting for Cameron and came out voting for Brandon, so...
Which, like, totally blew my mind. Like, I was, like, petitioning for Cameron. And the reason why is because that's who I was voting for. I knew instantly when I got voted out, I was voting for Cameron. It didn't matter that he didn't take me to the final. That was a good move. Like, yeah, I recognized it as a good move. And, he gave me the respect to tell me. And it was just like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I was sad and I cried and it was like emotional, but I knew going into the final tribal I was voting for Cameron. There was going to be no way to sway me. And I talked to everybody, like, who you guys going to vote for? And it was probably there were 7 of us. It was probably 5-2 at that point. Like 5 people were going to vote for Cameron and 2 were going to vote for Brandon. And Justin, I am so surprised because he was so Cameron. And all of a sudden, then he votes for Brandon. And then Becca flips. And
Yeah.
she's talking to me, and I'm whispering to her as like after they did their speeches, I'm whispering to her, and I'm like, who are you voting for? Because I can see that the numbers were skewed because we're all kind of whispering. And I wanted Cameron to win. Like, I loved Brandon, but I felt like gameplay wise, I wanted Cameron to win. And Becca's like, well, I think Cameron deserves to win, but I'm going to vote for Brandon because I think Cameron will win. And I'm like, looking at her like, you got to vote. I know, I'm looking at her like, you got to vote for who you really think should win because the numbers are really close. And she still voted for Brandon, even though she made that statement to me like, I think Cameron deserves to win, but I think I'm going to vote for Brandon because he won't get as many votes. Like, she almost was like, she almost, in my perception in that moment, she was voting for Brandon because she didn't think he would get votes. So like pity vote, but then it actually ended up being the sway vote that freaking made it so Brandon won.
Oh, it was that close. I thought it was 5-2.
No, it was 4-3.
Wow.
Because it was me. It was me. I voted for Cameron. Toby voted for Cameron.
Oh, and Emily.
Emily,
yeah. Okay.
And I was surprised Becky voted for Brandon as well.
She had promised him.
She did?
Yeah, like days before. Because, I don't know, she trusted him. Well, he was likable. I think that Cameron was right when he said the likable person always wins, and that he maybe underestimated Brandon's likability, maybe.
Well, I think everybody liked him, and Brandon also was like a little more behind the scenes, talking behind people's backs.
Yes.
Where maybe mine was a little more overt, but like he definitely had alliances with most people.
Yes.
Which is a good way to win the jury votes if you can get to the final three, because that is why he won. Because same with Becca. I mean, Becca really connected with him too, and that's why she ended up voting for him, even though she admitted that she thought Cameron deserved it. So, yeah, I don't know.
Why didn't you try to get somebody to vote with you so you could have gone to fire in that final four?
It wouldn't have.
What do you mean?
It wouldn't have gone to fire.
What would have happened?
So I played this out in my mind before, and so we had talked to. So Cameron wins. All right, awesome. He goes to his confessional, and me and Brandon are talking, and I'm like, what do you want to do? It's like, you want to vote for Tony and risk what's going to happen? Like, it wasn't going to necessarily go to fire, because what would have happened was that, let's say Cameron and it would have gone to revote, right? Like, so if me and Brandon voted for Tony, which would Brandon have believed that I was? Because really all I would need to do was flip. But let's say Cameron and Tony were going to vote for me, and me and Brandon decided to team up and vote for Tony. Then, it's a tie. We got to revote. Me and Tony can't vote. Cameron and Brandon get to vote.
Okay. And then at that
point, they would have either voted me or Tony out, which it would have been stupid to vote out Tony, so they would have voted me out. If it would have been vice versa with Brandon, the same thing would have happened. If they would have stuck strong, and let's say it went, I don't know if they would have gone to rocks or something, it would have been the opposite person. Like, either way, Cameron kind of had the decision in my mind. And because a lot of people at Ponderosa were like, we're so mad you gave up. And I was like, I didn't. I was like, I did not give up. No way. There was no way for me to make it. Cameron had the decision. He had Tony in his pocket. So him and Tony were voting together. There was no way for me to sway Tony.
That's true. Okay.
So they had their 2 votes. And then all it took was Cameron and Tony to say, Brandon, we'll take you. All you got to do is vote for Jasmine. Brandon would have been stupid to say, no, I'm going to vote for Tony with Jasmine and make it be this weird drawn out thing. So there was really no way. And if Cameron would have said the same thing to me, like, me and Tony are voting for Brandon, I would have voted for Brandon to make it into the final 3. So there was no way that we didn't have Tony. I didn't have Tony.
Yeah.
And that was where where it kind of was like, I didn't give up. It was just like, there was no swaying Tony. There was 2 votes. And if they were both going to go for me, Brandon just needed to vote for me. And he would have not done that. He would have not done that. Like,
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I had fully played it out in my mind. Like,
No, it makes sense now. For some reason, I was just thinking that there's no revote, but there is at the Final Four. If it's a tie, there's one more revote,
right.
and then you go to fire. So at the revote, you're absolutely right. That's how it would have gone down.
Yeah, at the revote. And even so, would we even done a revote? Like, no, because Brandon would have just, Cameron and Tony would have told Brandon, and he would have just put my name down. Like,
yeah.
There was no way around it. I definitely didn't give up. I fighted till the end, but
yeah,
it was nice to have a like amicable kind of exit where.
Yeah, it was like hearts and hugs at that Final Four tribal.
It was like, can you tell us? You know, like me and Brandon were just, because me and Brandon discussed it, and we were like, I was like, there's no way for us to change this unless we're going to be weird, but then it's just going to make things weird. And like, there's no reason. We're just going to have to do a revote, and then we're going to vote each other. So we might as well just do it anyway. And so I said, let's ask Cameron. It's his choice because Tony's going to do whatever he says. And Cameron said, I need some time. And he went and did a confessional. And, you know, he came back. He was pretty emotional. And
yeah, he cried during that one.
Yeah. And, you know, he was super emotional, and he's like, you know, I'm going to take Brandon. And, you know, I was just like, it's okay. Like, I remember consoling him for sending me home.
Oh,
but I kind of knew it was coming. And then we went, and Liza was like, sounds like you guys already know what's going to happen. And I guess that's why it looks like I had kind of given up, which wasn't the case.
Right.
And it was just like, yep, it's going to be me. Like, there's no way around it. And there's no such thing as an idol at the Final Four. There's no such thing as, you know, whatever. So I knew it was going to be me, and it was just like, all right, bye. And it gave me an opportunity to apologize to Becca and Jess, because I was still kind of worried that, you know, they hated me.
They were all going to vote for you if you made it.
Yeah, I know they were. And that was the thing, is like, it felt, when they gave me the standing ovation.
Yes. Oh,
like, I was like, oh, like it took my breath away a little bit, because I was like, wow, like they really do respect me, because I still was in this moment of, do they hate me or love me? I couldn't tell. And maybe it was both, but at the same time, as long as they respected me playing the game, that's all that really mattered to me, because that's why I was there. But when they gave me the standing ovation, yeah, it took my breath away. I was like walking away bawling. Nick, you know, camera guy Nick's following me. Like, he's like, I can give you a few seconds. And I was like, no, you can film me. Like, this is what this is all about. Like, get it raw. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not scared to show my emotions. And so, you know,
good for you.
He interviewed me, and then they're like, I was kind of looking forward to the like beautiful entrance. Like, that was the only thing that sucks about
getting all pretty.
Yeah, like I was kind of like looking forward to this, like I was hoping there was gonna be like an hour or something, so I could really like change and like do my hair and stuff, and be able to walk in like, haha, you guys voted me out, and like you know, make this appearance. But it didn't happen. I literally had like 20 minutes to go to my car, and I'm like, I went and found Sarah. At this point, I told the Ponderosa. They kind of, as I walked over, like the whole jury kind of surrounded me, and I was bawling, and they're like hugging me, like, we would have voted for you. You played an awesome game. Like, you know, you were the smartest player in the game, kind of thing. And so it felt good. And then I was like, all right, I gotta go for a minute. And I found Sarah, and I'm like, bring me to my car. And I went to my car, and her and I cracked a beer. I know, like, cracked a beer.
That's so Sarah.
It's so Sarah. We cracked a beer, and then I was like, I need to, you know, and she understood. I was like, I need to be alone for a few minutes, and then I'll be up. So she went back up, and I just kind of sat in my car, smoked a joint, like, I know, right? Like, calmed down a little bit, washed my face, and I called my best friend, and like, he's like the person I watched Survivor with, and I just was like, talked to him for like 10 minutes, just like emotionally drained. Like, I'm sure I sounded ridiculous on the phone. Like, I was not crying, but I was just like, oh my God, like, this was such an experience. And, you know, threw on some sunglasses and went back up for the final tribal council. It was all a whirlwind, but I felt like I wanted to be at that final 3. I had my speech prepared. I really wanted to be able to do my speech and everything, but like,
give us your speech right now. Give it to me. I'm gonna choose between you and Cameron and Brandon.
No, I can't.
Oh.
It's been too long. Like, it's like, I know, I wish I could, but it's been so long. Like, I don't even know. It's been it was a great experience, honestly. Like, I would tell anybody to do it. I would, especially Survivor fans, like, you should at least do it one time. I don't think I'll ever do another one. Unless it's like the real deal. But
yeah, would you apply for the real deal?
I would totally apply for the real deal, but I would want to be more in shape. Like, I wouldn't want to go on in the shape that I'm in now. But if I were to get in better shape, I would totally apply. I would love to do it.
That's how I feel. Like, I can't swim. I can't run. I never run. Like, I get out of breath after 5 seconds. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, they always have, like, you know, the token, like, out of shape people on there. And
they're voted out first. Yeah.
Usually. Which is why when I came into it, like, I knew I was going to be targeted for that. Like, I knew that I would be, like, one of the targets of, like, we got to vote her out. She's making the team weaker. Before
But
merge.
You didn't, though.
No, I don't think I did.
So you done good.
It was great. Like, I don't have any bad feelings about it. I think other people maybe feel differently. I can't wait to watch it. I think I might feel differently after I watch it. We should totally do a podcast of our reactions after, because I think that things will get a little interesting, because you're going to see these people talk about you. You're going to see people that, like, you know, I'm going to say, oh, I'm in an alliance with this person, and then their confessional is going to go on saying, I'm trying to vote her out.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think, like, the reaction after watching the show is going to be kind of, like, awesome. But I don't have any hard feelings. I didn't have any hard feelings the moment I left the game. I hope people don't have hard feelings toward me. If they do, you know, I'm sorry if I offended you or irritated you or whatever, annoyed you. Yeah, like, that's kind of how I feel. But, you know, it was all good. It was a great experience. Like, my family and my friends are so pumped to watch it. Like, they're super excited. It's been fun to tell people about. You know, it was an awesome experience. I threw all my clothes away.
You did?
I'm like, I'm not keeping any of that. It was disgusting. Like, I didn't even dare wash it. I was like, oh, it's just gross. Probably covered in ticks. Like,
yeah, I think you made the right choice. Becky washed her clothes and they still smelled afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I believe it. Like, I have my shirt because I didn't wear that. But, you know, like, of all the clothes I wore there, no, I threw it all away. Except for the bra. I'm like, I'll keep the bra.
Yeah. Well, I guess we covered everything, huh?
I think so. I don't know.
Is there anything else you can think of?
I don't know. I think I don't know. How are they going to do how are they going to do these episodes? Are they going to do it with episodes?
Dude, I'm not totally sure. They took so much video of the challenges, which I find so boring. I think they're going to be long if they include all this stuff with the challenges.
That's true.
Yeah.
The stuff the good stuff, like, they should have cameras in certain places or something.
That's what I kept saying. I was like, we need more cameras on only the conversations. Like, if someone needs to be at camp at all times watching this.
Yeah, either that or, like, have, like, cameras that we can turn on.
Yes,
ourselves.
At the very least, yeah.
Because even some of just the good moments that weren't part of the game, like, we had fun at camp. We did weird things. We, like, carved our names into the thing. Like, there was just cool stuff, like us eating our gross food, like the pancake crumbles. Like,
oh my God.
like, none of that really got put on got taken because we did it when nobody was around. And it's hard to recap. Like I had a hard time like going into confessionals and recapping like what went on while the cameras weren't around. So it's hard. And most of my sketchy behavior happened off camera. So I'm wondering how I'll be portrayed like with the footage, because so much sketchy behavior happened off camera that I wonder if people watching will be like, why do they think Jasmine's so, so good? Why do they think she's so sketchy? What is she doing? Because I wasn't really on camera doing it. So unless people are recapping, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I think you gave some good confessionals. Maybe that'll help fill some stuff in.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for talking to me for 2 hours or... Yeah, dude, 2 hours.
Oh, exactly.
I called
exactly 2 hours. Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep in touch.
And I still think you should have won. Oh, well, you or Becky.
Right. Me or if Becky was not there, me.
Yes, exactly.
You were Team Jasmine.
Yes,
you were Team Jasmine from the beginning.
Hashtag Team Jazzy. That's me.
Yes, Team Jazzy. And Toby's wife was also Team Jazzy.
Oh.
After he got voted out. So
yeah.
Cool. Whatever. As long as the audience likes me, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, thank you.
Hashtag Team Jazzy. Yes, that is correct. And I know I was not alone in that. Such a pleasure getting to talk with Jazzy about her game. And yes, her idea of doing a sort of post-episodes podcast, that is happening in video form in just a few weeks. So be on the lookout for that. I'm sure that Survivor Cast International on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the podcast platforms, they will probably be doing interviews with some Surviving Maine people, so watch out for those too. In the meantime, every few days, I will be releasing the interviews I did with the final 3. So Tony's episode is coming next. Check out the Surviving Maine YouTube channel, subscribe or follow at Surviving Maine on Twitter, or join the Surviving Maine viewers group on Facebook to make sure you stay in the loop on all the post-season coverage. Bye!